All the images you're about to see have been carefully recreated to pull you right back into one of the toughest triumphs of human engineering. Black Canyon, Nevada, 1931. Temperature 120 degrees Fahrenheit in the shade, but there ain't no shade here. Just blistering rock, a roaring river, and a challenge that plenty of folks figured was flat out suicidal. In the depths of America's worst economic crash, while families queued up for loaves of bread just to get by, a gutsy project was gearing up to launch. This wasn't just any dam. It was a full-on battle cry against Mother Nature and against the soul-crushing hopelessness of the Great Depression. The Colorado River, that wild serpent of a waterway that had gouged out the Grand Canyon over millions of years, had to be brought to heel. Floods were wreaking havoc down in Southern California. All that wasted water could have turned barren deserts into blooming farmlands. But here's the kicker. Nobody had ever tackled a build this massive before. The dam would rise 725 feet high, like stacking a 60-story skyscraper. It'd guzzle enough concrete to pave a highway straight from San Francisco to New York. And they'd have to pull it off in one of the most unforgiving spots in America, where the heat could drop a man dead in a matter of hours. This is the story of how 21,000 men stared down the impossible. Before a single bag of cement hit the ground, they had to whip up an entire town out of thin air. Boulder City sprang up in the desert like magic in just a few months. 5,000 workers and their families needed homes, hospitals, schools. The 6 companies consortium, specially formed for this beast of a job since no single outfit was big enough to handle it, rolled out a full-blown urban setup before they even set foot in the canyon. But the real heavy lifting kicked off with a doozy of a puzzle. How do you build a dam in a river that's still raging full tilt? The fix called for one of the wildest engineering ops ever dreamed up. They'd have to bore 4 massive diversion tunnels straight through the canyon's solid rock walls, each one 56 feet across and nearly 3/4 of a mile long. Picture drilling through granite mountains with 1930s tech. Crews pulled 24-hour shifts. The jackhammers screamed like banshees. The dust choked the life out of you. Temps inside those tunnels topped 140 degrees. Guys passed out left and right. Plenty never got back up. In just 13 months, they pulled off the miracle. 1.96 million cubic yards of rock hauled out. The tunnels were good to go. Now they could reroute the Colorado temporarily, leaving a dry riverbed to start pouring concrete. But that river didn't go down without a fight. They threw up temporary setups called cofferdams, makeshift barriers of dirt and rock upstream and downstream to shove the water through the tunnels. One of them stood 100 feet tall and scarfed down 165,000 tons of material. The showdown with the river was on. As the riverbed dried up, another crew dove into the deadliest gig of the whole operation. The Black Canyon's sheer walls needed shaping up, scaling off loose rocks, prepping every inch. But these cliffs shot straight up, some over 650 feet tall. How do you work surfaces where even mountain goats would slip? Enter the high scalers. Guys who basically thumbed their noses at gravity. Dangling from basic ropes tied off at the canyon rim, these daredevils rappelled down the rock faces armed with nothing but hammers, picks, and dynamite. No safety nets, no fancy climbing gear, just rope, raw guts, and a burning need for a paycheck. They'd drill holes in the stone, cram in the explosives, light the fuse, and holler to get yanked up before it blew. Too many weren't fast enough. Flying rock shards pelted like machine gun fire. The heat bouncing off those dark walls was pure hell. It was one of these high-scalers who cooked up the first modern industrial hard hat. They dunk cloth caps in par, let them harden, then dunk again for that tough shell. Crude as it was, it saved countless noggins. Still, death was a regular visitor. Plunges into the void, premature blasts, tumble-down boulders, heat stroke wipeouts. Every week, fresh names hit the fatality list. But the high-scalers kept at it. Day in, day out, swinging like human pendulums over the edge, carving out the walls that cradled millions of tons of concrete. May 1933. Riverbed prepped, walls squared away. Now came the real monster, dumping 4.25 million cubic yards of concrete in some of the harshest conditions on the planet. But there was a killer glitch hardly anyone saw coming. Concrete heats up fierce as it sets. That's the cement hydration reaction cranking out intense temps. For a beast like Hoover Dam, pouring it solid in one go would have taken 125 years to cool off. Worse yet, that trapped heat would have cracked the whole thing to pieces before it even finished. Their fix? A game changer no one had tried at this scale. Instead of one giant slab, they'd build it like a 3D jigsaw of 230 separate blocks, from 650 to 1,600 square feet each. Layers topped out at just 5 feet high. Between pours, a 72-hour breather for initial cooldown. But that wasn't gonna cut it alone. The engineers dreamed up a setup straight out of sci-fi for the time. They embedded 580 miles of steel pipes right in the mix, enough to stretch from LA to San Francisco and back. Chilled water would pump through those fake veins, sucking the heat straight out of the core. They even built an on-site ice plant churning out 1,000 tons of ice a day. Water got cooled near freezing and cycled through the pipe grid. Started with straight river water, then switched to the iced stuff. Concrete that should have baked for over a century, cooled in a zippy 18 months. It was an engineering masterstroke in heat management that flipped the script on big builds forever. The sheer size of this thing? Mind-blowing. 5 massive cableways spanned the canyon, hauling 8-ton concrete buckets. Every 78 seconds, a fresh one swung into place. Round the clock, 7 days a week, for 2 straight years. At peak, they were slamming down concrete faster than ever before. Over 260,000 cubic yards a month. Mixers churned non-stop, like a perfectly timed ballet of steel and grit. Down in the canyon floor, it was a symphony of iron and sweat. Cranes danced with pinpoint accuracy. Wooden forms went up and down in choreographed waves. Puddlers, guys jamming vibrating rods to pack the wet mix, toiled in oven-like misery. Bottom of the canyon temps routinely topped 120 degrees. Fellas keeled over. Some checked out for good, but the beast kept rolling. Millions of tons of supplies rolled in by rail every day. Cement from 3 different states. Sand and gravel scraped from the riverbanks. Structural steel shipped from coast to coast. Water pumped in ridiculous volumes. They even laid a custom railroad just for the job. Locomotives dragged endless strings of loaded cars in a never-ending parade. The logistics were a nightmare. One snag could burn through tens of thousands of bucks an hour. And through it all, the men kept grinding. Filthy, beat to hell, but fueled by the raw desperation for a wage in the gut punch of the Depression. $5 a day, that was gold when millions had zilch. But the real tab, it was tallied in lives. 96. That's the official body count from the build. But the real story's a whole lot grimmer. First to go was J.G. Tierney, a surveyor who drowned in the Colorado back in December 1922 during the early surveys. 13 years later, on December 20, 1935, the last official casualty was his son, Patrick Tierney, an eerie twist that still gives the dam's tale a chill. Between those bookends, dozens more bought it in brutal ways. Tumbles from the canyon rims, buried in rock slides, crushed under heavy gear, nailed by flying debris, fried by live wires, drowned in the drink. But that tidy 96 doesn't tell the full tale. At least 16 got chalked up to official heat prostration. Doc speak for the desert straight up killing them. Over 40 kicked off from pneumonia, though family and buddies always figured it was carbon monoxide poisoning from those stuffy tunnels. Those didn't make the official tally because the guys weren't on the clock when they dropped. History books hint the true number might hit 116. No real comp for the families, no solid life insurance, just debts and ghosts left behind. The 6 companies fought tooth and nail against every payout claim. Still, guys kept lining up. For every slot that opened when one fell, 10 more hungry souls waited in the wings. The Depression had made a job worth more than your own hide. One thing to set straight, no bodies poured into the concrete. That's just a stubborn urban legend. But the blood of those men, it's mixed into every inch of rock and cement in this monster of a structure. 96. That's the official body count from the build. May 29, 1935. 2 years ahead of schedule, the final concrete pour hit the deck. The world's biggest concrete dam stood finished. The impossible? Nailed. In a blistering 5 years, a structure that blew minds had clawed its way up from one of Earth's rawest hell holes. 725 feet tall, 1,244 feet across the top, 660 feet thick at the base, packing 8.6 million tons of concrete, enough to sidewalk a path around the Earth's equator. The diversion tunnels got sealed. The Colorado, flowing wild for eons, was finally leashed. Water started pooling up behind the wall. Lake Mead swelled to life. It'd grow into America's largest reservoir, holding 2 full years' worth of the river's flow. 247 square miles of sparkling blue smack in the desert's heart. Turbines fired up, spinning out juice for the first time come September 1936. The dam didn't just tame floods and dish out water. It lit up the Southwest. Vegas, LA, Phoenix, whole cities boomed on Hoover's power. The whole shebang ran $49 million, about $1 billion in today's dollars. But electric sales covered the tab, plus interest, in just 50 years. Nearly 90 years on, Hoover Dam stands tall as ever. It cranks out an average of 4 billion kilowatt hours a year, enough juice for 8 million homes. It pipes water to 25 million folks across 3 states. It shields whole valleys from killer floods. But the real legacy? It runs way deeper than concrete and rebar. Hoover proved humans could whip nature through sheer engineering smarts, grit, and guts. In the black hole of the Great Depression, it sparked hope for a beat-down nation. It put thousands to work when jobs were scarcer than hen's teeth. It showed big dreams could actually happen. The tricks cooked up here, the concrete cooling pipes, the block-by-block pour, the worker safety hacks, flipped civil engineering on its head. Grand Coulee, Glen Canyon, dozens of megadams worldwide owe their blueprints to the hard-won lessons from this savage canyon. But we can't lose sight of the bill. 96 official lives gone, likely over 100. Thousands banged up bad. Countless families shattered. Men who bet it all for $5 a day. Hoover Dam's a testament to what human ingenuity can pull off, but it's also a stark memorial to the fellas who footed the ultimate price for the win. Next time you gaze at that impossible slab rising from Black Canyon, remember, every inch got paid for in sweat, blood, and breath. It went up in an age when lives were just another expendable supply. Plentiful, cheap, forgettable. That's the raw truth behind Hoover Dam. An engineering knockout, a nod to unbreakable human will, and a gut-check reminder of what progress really costs.